Welcome to Take the Lead Radio with Dr. Diane Hamilton, where she interviews some of the most successful leaders, entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, and other individuals who will inspire you to take the lead in your career and personal life. And now, here is Dr. Diane Hamilton.
I am here with Cody Gough, who is a Chicago-based radio host and podcast veteran with more than a decade of on-air and production experience. He is here accompanied by Ashley Hamer, who is the managing editor of Curiosity.com and a science communicator with a love of all kinds of different things. And that's why they're both on the show, because they work at Curiosity.com and they are interested in curiosity, which you might know is a topic that I am fascinated with. So welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Well, this is exciting. You know, I have your app. I've followed your show and different things that you guys do at Curiosity.com because I'm like, this is so, what I think the world doesn't focus on enough is curiosity and the importance of it. And I think that there's a lot of discussion about drive and motivation, but it's all kind of entangled with, do you have the curiosity to begin with, right? And so I'm just curious what you guys think. You can decide who wants to answer this, but what do you think is the main thing that keeps people from being curious?
I think a fear of being wrong is a big one. I think that we are really comfortable in the things that we know for sure and branching out into the things that we might not know the answers to. Those things could be scary. They could make us feel like we don't know everything, like that, like we're wrong about something, that like the things that we've operated on this whole time have been the wrong rules and the wrong ways of being. I don't know.
Yeah, you see it all the time with confirmation bias and lots of other biases that people have. We've written about a lot of mental shortcuts people have and a lot of psychological quirks people have, that they're always seeking out information that they already agree with. And it is hard to have your challenges, beliefs challenged. That's just it's not really a fun thing necessarily. Mm-hmm. And it's another one of those things where, like, my sister works at a planetarium, and so I've gone and visited. And like, you look around a planetarium and you're like, wow, there's a lot of stuff. There's billions of years of history, and there's space, and there's trillions of miles, and there's just so much. The more you learn that you don't know, like, the more you realize, like, wow, there's so many different things that I could kind of get into. And we write about space and things like that, and sometimes it on the surface can seem overwhelming. So the trick then becomes for us, and our job becomes, how do we present information so that people who are curious can kind of wrap their head around it in an accessible way, and it's easy for them to process, and we don't freak them out and scare them away, because that's not fun for anybody.
Yeah, that's so fascinating, because you don't know what you don't know, and people don't really seek what they don't know sometimes. And what I did for part of my research was I discovered 4 factors that hold people back, and fear, of course, was the first one that comes to mind with people, right? But they sometimes overlap, and I found that fear, assumptions, like it's going to be boring, I don't like it, and it's going to be something I'm not interested in. Technology sometimes doing stuff for you, or you freaked out by it, and your environment, what your parents maybe directed you over here, or teachers had to teach to the test, and different things. So I did a factor analysis for my assessment I created to see how things aligned, and those were really the 4 areas. Everything kind of fell into those 4 buckets. And I know you guys deal with curiosity more in general, where I'm dealing with the workplace in my work a lot. But I think that what I was trying to do was to not to find out if you're curious or not, because there's some assessments out there like, Harvard and Cashin has great assessments. There's a lot of great assessments out there, whether you're curious or not, but a lot of them don't tell you what's holding you back. And that's what I wanted to know. And then, because I think if you could figure out what holds you back from being curious, that you could move forward by, baby steps. Like, you're not going to learn all astrophysics tonight. You're going to, like you said, it's too much, right? So how do we help people get past that fear, get over the environment, those are the kinds of things I'm trying to do. And I know you guys have little exercises on apps, learn something new a day, but how do we get people to just try and explore something new? Do you have exercises you suggest, like read this section of the paper today instead of every other day reading the same things? Or do you guys write about things like that or talk about things like that on your show? I'm just curious what you would suggest.
Well, I know that one way that we try to bring people in to any given story or article is by making it really relatable to the individual, which I think is a great way to really enhance your own curiosity, because you're the most important thing in your life, right? I mean, like everybody's the star of their own show. Right. So if you have, if there's something that has to do with you and your own life that you just have a quick question about, that you're like, oh, actually, I don't know this one thing, that can lead you to a whole world of different things. For example, when you pour the cream into your coffee, and you see those cool little billows of cream that come up to the surface, and it's so pretty, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what is that? I don't know what that is. And so maybe you look into it and you start to find out about like the physics and the fluid dynamics that's going on. You find out that Einstein once wrote a paper about tea leaves, and like all sorts of things that just start from your own curiosity about the things that you do every day. And the idea is just to ask those questions. If you don't know something, find out.
And I think that there's information's everywhere today, right? I mean, right. Basically, we have access. Every person that's connected to the internet has access to like the universe's knowledge. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of different ways to consume content right now, right? You can read articles, you can listen to podcasts, you can watch YouTube videos, you can watch Netflix original series, you can watch documentaries. I mean, there's a zillion ways to consume. And one way to overcome that theory of curiosity, or maybe the difficulty in processing all that information and knowing where to go, is by exploring which avenue works best for you. And some people are naturally podcast listeners. It'll be great for them. We like listening to stuff. I can do it while multitasking. I like to process information that way. Other people aren't. And that's part of why at Curiosity we have a lot of different avenues for people to consume us. We put a lot of effort into our Instagram account. So maybe all you can handle if you're a curious person is a couple sentences on a nice image every day, and I just need the bullet points and that's all I can handle. All right, great. That's cool. And if you want to, again, like Ashley mentioned, that can lead to a gateway. We'll always give you a link that says you can read more if you're more interested in this. But yeah, we're on, like Tumblr, Pinterest, all the social media networks you can think of. And then we've got our podcast. So it's like, if you don't have time to read 5 articles a day, or you're on your commute, maybe you used to be a commuter on a train or a bus, and now suddenly you're driving, so you can't read while you're driving. Well, that's another way to do it. And certain things are going to resonate with you more, and you're just going to be able to process that information a little bit better. So I think that overcoming the fear may just mean switching the way you're consuming information, and hopefully you find the right way to do that.
And I think overall, just exercising that curiosity muscle, no matter how you do it, is the more you do it, the more you'll learn that it's not scary, and it's probably not boring, whatever you're going to find out. And it's actually really fun and rewarding once you get to the end of that rabbit hole.
You say the boring, and it all of a sudden brought to mind my high school history teacher, who was so boring, and it just killed me because it took my interest in history away, because she was just monotone, as I started yesterday, and she would just go blah, 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 and you just zone out, right? And I think a lot of people have associated bad past experiences with things, and so they go, well, I'm not interested in that, and they don't open up their minds to that in the future. And I really think it's really important to, maybe if you didn't like something in the past, to try a new way of looking at it. And I like that you'd mentioned all the different ways to deliver content, because I'm a professor and teach at multiple universities, and we use like VARC and different assessments, to test if they better at visual or audio or whatever, and you try to deliver content in different ways. And I think that that's really important. But you also, we're talking about Einstein, and, and a lot of the quotes in my book are about Einstein and Buffett and Gates and all those guys. They all account for their success. They all, at one point or another, say because they were curious. I mean, how many quotes can you find that say that from those guys that talk about that? So what I'm trying to do in the workplace is to develop that sense of how important question asking is, and not putting people in that position where they're afraid that their ideas are going to be shut down, and that they, because now that AI is such a big thing, that innovation is going to be the big word, right? The buzzword. Everybody's going to be talking innovation in the workplace. Well, how do you get people to be innovative? They got to be curious. They have to want to look into this kind of thing. So do you guys focus on the business aspect at all of how companies can benefit from, getting their employees to be more curious and innovative?
We have a pretty broad variety. I mean, we cover lots of different types of content, but there's certainly a lot of business writing we've done. We just published a study wrote about a study rather, and talked about it on our podcast about some new research that says that the companies benefit greatly, not just employees, but companies, their bottom line will benefit from employees taking all their vacation days. It seems counterintuitive. You're like, wait a second, that seems kind of odd. But there was a company, actually kind of ironically, a travel company that found that 19% of its employees were taking all their vacation days in a year. 19%. So they decided, we're going to incentivize employees. If they take all of their vacation days, then they will get a $500 bonus for taking all of their vacation days.
Nice.
And it turned out that not only did they increase the percentage of employees who took all their vacation days, it went up to somewhere in the 80%. So it was like 89%, I think. So they more than quadrupled the number of employees taking all their vacation days, but it saved the company more than $36,000 in liability. And other studies have shown that employees that take all their vacation days are more productive, usually happier, usually more curious and innovative. They come back to work, like fully charged. Actually, I mentioned in our show that I came back from a vacation one time and I was like charged up and ready to go.
Just ready to go.
And like, I didn't even realize that. So there's all these benefits. And just from the curiosity of one company asking, what if we try to incentivize vacation days? What kind of benefits can we see? They saw a huge immediate impact on their bottom line. They saw, I'm presumably, much happier employees, because who's not happy when they take vacation days?
Right.
And that's just one thing that leads to another. And we do write about, this is a trend that whenever a company is willing to try something, just out of curiosity, it could lead down a path that seems totally counterintuitive and counterproductive. Unlimited vacation days. Study after study after study has shown that unlimited vacation days is really great for a lot of companies, and it has a huge amount of benefit. Go ahead.
Well, actually, unlimited vacation days, people take less if you
they do.
don't have an actual amount.
Yeah.
But there's also another study that we're about to talk about, that we're about to write about. You may have seen it from Harvard Business Review, that not only, you're talking about curiosity with innovation, and that's huge, but also it turns out that learning something new is a great way for employees to relieve stress. They found that when employees actually learned something new during their workday, they enjoyed work more, they were more productive, they just were overall, their well-being was improved. So yeah, curiosity is hugely important, and we do, to circle back to what we feature about business stuff. We do have many articles about how to make the workplace better, but I think in my own personal experience, a great way to make people more curious is to stop that knee-jerk reaction when someone asks you something that you already know the answer to, and you react in a way that's just like, oh, of course it's this. Like, how could you, and you make them feel stupid. Like that's a silly thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think a great way to encourage curiosity is to just get excited with someone else learning something new, because you learned it for the first time, just like anyone. And to go back to that moment when you first learned it and be excited with this other person that's learning it too is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
And it encourages it.
Well, you brought up feeling better. The dopamine release when you're curious is obviously going to make you feel better. And there's cortisol and different aspects involved in the research. I found that, all that is so important to stress. My dissertation was emotional intelligence, and stress was one of the things I looked at in salespeople for that when I wrote about it. And if you could reduce stress, you're getting productivity, you're getting so many things. And so I am looking at it from productivity, from innovation, from engagement. You know, a third of the workplace is feeling a sense of engagement for their jobs right now, which is terrible numbers. I mean, we want to get that up, right? And part of it is they want to know how they're doing. They want feedback. And I love that you're saying, don't roll your eyes, don't, do that. And I think, I mean, I've had bosses that you ask them a question and they'll say, oh, I'll pretend I didn't hear that. Or, they'll say something really obnoxious like that. And what does that do? It just cuts you off at the knees, right? You're never going to say anything to this guy again, right?
Right.
So I think it's really important that we look through other people's eyes and fresh eyes, because even if you've learned something in the past, like you said, you're not going to learn it the same way if you see it from somebody else's perspective. So I like the thought of bringing curiosity into teams in the workplace. And you know what I like though about younger generations, which you guys look like millennials to me.
I would say millennials. Yeah, we're in that camp.
And so millennials are, they have this desire to get all this feedback and to cooperate in these teams. And there's so many more opportunities, I think. And what I really like is the look of how they view failure. And we were talking about fear of failure, fear of looking dumb, fear of whatever. And I see a lot more your generation looking at learning experiences from what happens more than failure. Do you guys see that more in what you do?
I certainly do. I can't speak for Cody. What do you think?
Actually sees me fail a lot.
No.
I think there's a healthy share of that. And to your point about curiosity and productivity, right? The curiosity doesn't have to exist as curiosity in the workplace or curiosity outside the workplace. Right. And in fact, curiosity outside the workplace just dramatically can help out your productivity in the actual workplace. We recently wrote about some research that basically the more hobbies you have outside of work, or if you have hobbies outside of work, that can make you a much better worker. I don't remember
it's called the Temin effect.
Yes, the Temin effect.
Temin, T-E-M-I-N.
Yeah.
It's basically the idea that the more things you do outside of your main occupation, the better you are at your occupation.
Yeah, it's from a scientist, Dr. Temin, who was a Nobel laureate, and it turned out that he won the Nobel Prize, right? Lots of scientists are scientists, but they don't win the Nobel Prize. So what's his thing? But he read all the time. He was like just a voracious, what's the word? He was really into reading, right? Yes, exactly. Read lots of books on like philosophy and science fiction and psychology and all that stuff. And it's like that helped complement him. And we found that at Curiosity. I've told Ashley on our podcast, actually, Ashley's a professional saxophonist. On the side, which is pretty awesome. And I played in a band. I was going to be a music major for a while, but switched. But I played in band for many, many years, and I understand what it's like to be in a band and perform in a group. And I understand what it's like to have a conductor cut you off in the middle of a sentence and tell you, no, you've got to do this, or the middle of a phrase, and all these things. But also what it's like to be able to listen and all these just like little skills that I kind of picked up on the band environment. I know that Ashley has in the workplace. So like when we're working together on stuff, if we're in the middle of a podcast and like I hear something and I'm like, oh, we need to stop, I know I can kind of like cut her off right away or whatever. And it's not like this rude, like, why is this guy, interjecting for no reason and interrupting? It's like, I know that most people who have played a lot of music can take direction well. And it's a huge asset. And it's a cool thing to be able to give immediate feedback and not have it taken personally or judgmentally. It's just like, hey, wait a sec, we got to like hang on for this or whatever. And I'm not saying like I direct Ashley a lot.
No,
awesome Ashley all the time. But once in a while, like, and she does the same to me. Like if I say something, she'll be like, you said that weird. You like pronounce that word weird. And I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably not suddenly have an accent for half a sentence. Just all this, like anybody listening that thinks I should be curious in the workplace, like don't think you should be curious in the workplace. Just be a naturally curious person and have interests, and that's going to complement what you do in all walks of life.
Don't let those moments go. Like hold on to those and follow them. That's just the big part of it. Yeah.
And you think of the story of Steve Jobs taking the calligraphy course. He's just hanging out, checking that out, and look at what it did to change the world. I mean, with the fonts and you don't know what one little interest outside of work, or, you know, if you're taking a course or whatever, I would like to see more. I know I tend to focus more on the workplace just because that's my work, but I agree. It has to start everywhere. You have to have that kind of open mindset in general, because it will carry over into all aspects of your life. But I think that a lot of people are just raised in an atmosphere where they were taught, you know, you're better to be seen and not heard, or whatever they were taught as a kid, that they just shut down. And I think it takes a little bit of a nudge, because I was thinking when I was writing this book, you know, the people who need to learn to be more curious, or could help them to be more curious, are the least likely to pick up a book on curiosity, because they're not curious, right?
Yeah.
So is it kind of, well, for me, I think it's really important for like consultants and HR and leaders to buy into the concept, and then how kind of filter it down. But in the outside world, how do you get a person interested in curiosity.com or Curiosity Podcast or Curiosity whatever if they're not naturally curious to explore?
It's a very good question. I mean, I think that everyone is interested in something, right? I mean, unless you're like a very boring person, at some point you've had some question about the world around you. Why is the sky blue? I mean, just from childhood, even if you lost some of that, humans are very naturally curious, right? Especially children. And, you know, we may lose some of that because of fear, because of trepidation, or the way that we've been raised, as we kind of talked about. Mm-hmm. But it's always going to be there somewhere. So it's appealing to what people are interested in, rather than just kind of a blanket, we're going to appeal to a person who is curious. It's more of you're curious about what. So we write about lots of different things, and the medium is really just so much as important as the message. I mean, as we've kind of mentioned, somebody is going to find us on Twitter. Somebody might find us searching in podcasts. Somebody might find us, hopefully Google would be a nice place to be found. And it's just it's lowering the bar of entry as much as humanly possible for that curiosity. We keep our podcasts are short and sweet. They're less than 10 minutes a day. We put it everywhere. You can listen on Amazon Alexa, as the flash briefing, and lots of other methods. And just, I think it's really like more subject based. If you're looking for business and productivity tips, you'll probably find your show before you find the curiosity necessarily. But like, we talk about that stuff. And if somebody's looking for how can vacation days increase productivity, like, you're going to stumble across us. And just being there and pushing out as much as possible. But finding the right audience is always tricky, right? I mean, that's the $1 million question these days, I think.
Well, several ways that we try to get people in as much as possible is by focusing on topics that are surprising. So those could be myth busters. Those could be just things you didn't know that kind of change your life, or just things you didn't know about places or certain animals or anything. And then, like I said before, making them personally relatable. So we find that people are way more interested in reading about cats and dogs than they are about penguins and salamanders. And that's because they have cats and dogs at home. It's personally relatable to them, right? And another way is just pictures. Honestly, like, people love beautiful, vivid imagery. They love to see the original image that you're talking about, and the beautiful landscape of this place far away that we're telling you about. So even if, because the idea is to get past that fear that it's going to be boring. So we have to show you that this thing's really interesting. Just come on in and learn more about it. Yeah. And that is hopefully getting past some of those people who maybe don't have that natural curiosity, but we can really entice them to get it.
And in terms of more the nuts and bolts of it too, you've probably heard of the Skim, the newsletter, the news newsletter that lots of millennials are really into. And it's your little news briefing in your email inbox every day. And it's written in a very millennial internet speak style. They say OMG and WTF and use little memes and references to shows and things. And that's the way that we write, because if you're curious about space, like, yeah, I could go find like a 35-page scientific paper with, written at a 13th grade reading level, but like, is that fun? Or is a 500-word article with puns and references to Linkin Park and whatever else we do, like, is that more fun? Yeah. And that it's the way that we write. It's the medium almost over the message. We interviewed a seismologist who worked for the National Geological Survey for many, many years, interviewed her on our show. And she talked about really how talking about earthquakes, scientists have to, she's like, I learned in my decades of experience that we have to talk about earthquakes and seismology in a certain way, otherwise people will tune out. Yeah. And her thing was, if we say that an earthquake happened and we're not sure why, people will kind of freak out, because they see a geologist or seismologist role as, you're the experts, you're the ones who are supposed to present this information in a way that helps us feel like emotionally that we are safe and that someone understands this. And it was such an interesting conversation, because we spent so much time talking about just how she's like, the facts matter, but facts don't matter. You have to present facts in a way that people can process. Yeah. Otherwise, if they don't process it, then what's the point of it existing, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of that, we're seeing more tweetable moments. We're seeing more things that people can share. And I see so much of your information everywhere, and I get signed up for everything. And I love it when I see that I got something new in my email from you guys, because it's cool stuff. I block everything else, but you guys really have.
Thank you.
You guys have a really cool site. And that's why I was really grateful that you wanted to be on the show. I was so glad to reach out to you and learn more, and that you responded back with a positive response. And I think that a lot of people want to know more about how they can get the app, or how they can listen to your show, or what are the different links, and how do they get your information?
You're the expert at this part.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
We have a Curiosity app for Android and iOS. It's got 5 stars on both platforms. So just search Curiosity. We are not Curiosity Stream, by the way. We're just Curiosity.com. That's a different brand that sometimes people get us mixed up with. Just straight Curiosity.com, plain and simple.
Yep.
Our podcast is called Curiosity Daily. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, every podcast app. And is an Alexa flash briefing. Amazon Echo users can create these flash briefings that give them like a customized news feed every day. And we're seeing that we're becoming really popular there. Typically on social media accounts, you can follow curiosity.com spelled out. And that's across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all of our social media sites. And there's also an email newsletter that people should really sign up for, because that's just a really fantastic distillation of everything. If you're not really active on social media and you want to follow us there. And for the travel buffs out there who are thinking about using all their vacation days, because that'll make you more productive and happier, then you can follow curiosity.com travel on Instagram. We have a travel-specific account with lots of really cool places to go and just fun facts about places around the world. And there's probably a lot more. I mean, I know we have like an Alexa skill. We have like a Facebook robot somewhere that like will talk to you if you ask it about Curiosity. But
that's awesome.
At Curiosity.com, you can pretty much find all our links.
That's twice, and she didn't answer you. She's right behind me. I was waiting for her to turn on. That's her name. I was like, uh-oh, here it goes. She's done that on my shows before, which is funny. But, you guys are so sweet for being on the show, and very fascinating stuff you're doing. I support you 100% because I think the world needs to be more curious. And thank you again for being on my show.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Everyone should take your advice. This is the right business advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a tweetable moment. And we'll be back after this message.